It's time for another edition of the Improbability Engine. I'm Will Aubrey. My buddy Joe Darnell is alongside me here. And Joe, what's your moment of what this week?
Well, we don't normally talk much about University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, frankly, because if you wanted to listen to something like that, there are numerous other options out there. But this caught me. Kentucky versus Louisville in baseball. University of Louisville, great baseball program, top 3 in the nation, basically week in and week out.
Ranked number 1 for a while this year.
Absolutely. Playing against Kentucky, the University of Kentucky baseball team had a triple play. Now that's pretty incredible because triple plays don't happen very often. But this is one that I'd never, ever seen before. It is a 7-2-6 triple play. Now, for those of you who don't do the numbers on that, that's an outfielder who threw the ball to the catcher, who then threw the ball to the third baseman.
Okay.
That is the weirdest triple play. Normally, triple plays are very fast. They're quick happening. You never know what, it's just pop, pop, pop. I don't know how you get a 7-2-6 triple play to work. And if you can find the video out there is it's a little unusual. I saw it. I was just like, what? 7-2-6 triple play? All right, well, what about yours? What's your moment of what?
Well, I debated back and forth, and on my way over here, it became clear what my moment of what should be. Saw a story the other day. Turned out not to be true. It was from one of the fake news sites.
Check your sources, people.
But the picture was this woman with crossed eyes. She looked deranged. And the headline was, "Woman uses trained squirrels to kill husband." And the story said that she had trained squirrels to kill her husband, and they attacked her husband and killed him. Now,
must have went after the nuts.
So I was thinking about, wow, that's really weird. I thought it was hilarious and worthy of inclusion, even though it didn't turn out to be a true story. But I was going back and forth, and on the way over here, there was a dead squirrel in the middle of the road with a bird picking at its carcass, and I thought that had to be a sign.
You know what? That's when you start going for it right there. That's exactly what you got to do. That's a pretty good one. All right, so all eyes are on Valley Watch 2017 with Wichita State leaving the Missouri Valley Conference, and now the Missouri Valley Conference is maybe looking to expand, maybe not. We still haven't got definitive word on whether that's going to happen, and everything kind of stems from that. But amongst the rumors, Valparaiso, Murray State, and a host of others have been named as possible replacements. And then today, Jeff Bidwell says that there's announced a special Board of Regents meeting, and on their agenda is intercollegiate athletics. I've kind of looked around and asked some people, and can't get hard confirmation, but the people I've talked to have said, yeah, that sounds like what we think it is. So there might be some information out there before too much longer, at least as it pertains to Murray's interest in joining the Missouri Valley Conference. What do you think, Will?
Well, the only other thing that I had heard, seen, read, whatever, was that Alan Ward had told Jeff Bidwell, the sportscaster for WPSD, that Murray State had not received an invitation as of the time that they spoke. Now, that's meaningless.
Yeah.
Because there isn't going to be an invitation until everything's been worked out and they know it's going to be accepted.
The invitation is the last step.
Yeah. That's the last absolute step. So the Missouri Valley Conference is not going to take the risk of inviting somebody and being turned down. That's just not going to happen.
Right. Agreed. And tip of the cap to the Missouri Valley Conference and to any and all the schools who may or may not have been contacted to this point. This is a very quiet story. For those of you who are in Murray, you know how difficult it is to keep a secret in the city of Murray and in Murray State in general. For those of you who are outside of Murray, I don't even know if I can describe to you how Murray is a combination of Mayberry and our town, but with high major Division I college basketball. I mean, am I incorrect in my assessment here? I mean, we're talking about a multi-million-dollar deal, no matter how it shapes up, and there's nothing. I mean, it is as quiet as you can imagine, and that's unusual for around here. I mean, normally something would leak out. And
it's not just quiet here. You can't find rumors anywhere about which direction the Missouri Valley Conference is going to go. My understanding is that Murray State would, and over the years, university presidents have told me this, athletic directors have told me this, that Murray State would be interested if the Missouri Valley came calling. So now the question then becomes, right, it's not a new position. The question then becomes, okay, can they make it work if the Missouri Valley has come calling? Because they have to make it work financially, and who knows whether or not that's possible, especially with the way that the government in the state of Kentucky has cut Murray State's budget.
Yeah, and the one area that I look at as it comes to this is you're going to fund sports at Murray State. You've already got that as a line item in your athletics budget. That's already taken care of. By switching conferences, you might just change the arithmetic in how much revenue the conference gets, how much revenue that you'll get as a share of the conference, and that could be a big game changer for Murray State. We've known this for a while. Murray State's athletic budget is amongst the top in the OVC. The facilities for Murray State basketball, both men's and women's, because they share those facilities, are amongst the top in the conference, bar none. I mean, they're not as new as, say, Belmont's, but I think basketball-wise, they're as good as any in the conference. I know for a fact they're better than any in the conference.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If joining the Missouri Valley Conference financially required Murray State to drop football, would you be in favor of that?
You know, I've always been kind of as a kid, I watched football at Murray State. Houston Nutt was the coach. Great times for Murray State football. Top 5 in the country. Lots of wins in the postseason. All-Americans, NFL draft picks. Really high-quality time for Murray State sports. But the climate has changed a lot since that time. And since that point, I've kind of gotten to the point where, okay, you know what, maybe football's not carrying its own weight. But I recently had a conversation. The thing that 1AA or FCS football, scholarship football, gives you is the ability to schedule games with the SEC, with the ACC, with the Big Ten. And that's where the money is.
That's true, but those games don't bring Murray State the kind of money that they bring, just for example, Western Kentucky, when they play games like
Absolutely.
that.
The difference is what you spend.
Well, Western Kentucky's FBS,
right.
Murray State's FCS, and so Murray State usually gets $300,000 to $400,000 for one
right.
of those games, and that's out of a football budget that I saw somewhere the other day of $3.2 million, something like that, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
So I have a hard time believing that, you know, that makes football make a profit or break even.
And I think that's probably right. The big thing that I want to make sure that I put forth on this one is I don't know what the numbers are.
No, I don't either.
I mean, this is all supposition on my part, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands that on this
and
one.
And the figures that we've seen
right.
online may or may not be correct.
Right, and you don't know what's in those. You know, how much of that is facility maintenance costs, which aren't really technically paid by the athletic department, but are paid on behalf of the athletic department by the school.
And how much of it is cost you're going to have whether you have football or not.
Absolutely. That's the big question, yeah.
It's really difficult to tell.
Right. Well, and I think that's part of the problem that we've got here. What I do know is that low-level FBS football, a la Western Kentucky, Conference USA, Sun Belt, that's a money loser. Nobody makes money at that level. They just don't. No matter what they get paid for their games, they spend more than they make. There was a report by ESPN a couple of years ago that showed that the top 20 programs made money off football. Alabama made money off football. USC made money off football. Everybody else lost money on football. Now, some of that is to be understood and expected. You're not going to get direct revenue that's going to offset that, but you'll get indirect revenue that will help offset that. You'll get engagement, you'll get advertising, you'll get all the things that are positive. But you got to question, does Louisiana Monroe make that kind of money? Does Western Kentucky make a lot of money?
Well, I'm going to marginally disagree with you.
Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if Western made money because they get to play buy games for $1 million a piece,
right.
And they'll play 2 or 3 of those a season. And so, now, if you're an unsuccessful lower FBS program, then you're probably going to lose money hand over fist because even the buy games aren't going to be enough to offset the fact that you're not selling any tickets.
Right. I would bet $1 if it were legal in the state of Kentucky, which it's not, so I wouldn't. I would bet $1 that said that ratio-wise, what you have to spend yearly to be FBS and what you make for pay games is about the same as what you spend in FCS and what you get from pay games. I would bet that they're probably the same. I would think that some of the successful FCS teams make probably a little bit of money break even. Not everybody does.
One more quick fact, and then we'll move on from football because this is about basketball after all.
Right.
Oddly, and I was stunned when I saw this the first time, the University of Louisville makes far more money off basketball than the University of Kentucky does, but the University of Kentucky makes far more money off football than the University of Louisville does. I just thought that was really odd the first time that I saw those figures. But, that's the only way really that football is a consideration in this thing for Murray State is how going to the Missouri Valley Conference affects their football expenditures and whether or not they can continue FCS football. I've seen people online talk about football in terms of maybe Murray State's football helps them get in the Missouri Valley Conference. But the problem with that is people don't understand the Missouri Valley Football Conference is completely unaffiliated with the Missouri Valley Conference.
It's not completely unaffiliated. The commissioner of the Missouri Valley Football Conference is the assistant commissioner of the Missouri Valley Conference. But you're right, they're not directly tied. They are loosely affiliated in a big way.
One is not a subsidiary of the other.
Right.
They have common members.
Right, and there's a loose affiliation and understanding that kind of gives them some communication, but just because the Missouri Valley Conference invites a team does not mean the Missouri Valley Football Conference will invite.
Half of the Missouri Valley Football Conference is from the Summit League Basketball Conference, and half is from the Missouri Valley Basketball Conference. And those Summit League teams in no way are ready to just bend over backwards for the teams from the Missouri Valley.
The biggest issue as it comes to, we talk about football only as a help or a hindrance to Murray State being invited to the Missouri Valley Conference for basketball, and I want to make sure we're clear on that.
Okay.
The biggest thing that I see that you could do that would be beneficial to the conference as a whole or to members of the conference of the Missouri Valley Football Conference as a whole is that once you bring Murray State in, you now have 12 teams. You can do geographic breakdowns and actually do
those
two divisions inside there, which makes travel better.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that replacing football with men's soccer could work? Is there any chance people would come to watch men's soccer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think you can look no further than women's soccer. Women's soccer at Murray State has been far more successful than what I had anticipated, not just from on the field, but amongst fans. They show up, they come out. It helps that the soccer field is right next to the dorms. It's an easy trip for students to make on a Friday afternoon to watch a game. It's a beautiful spot to go and watch soccer. That field has been there for a long time and was actually the old football field back in the day. It's a good spot.
Well, I know there's a minor league soccer team in Louisville that draws 10,000 people to its game.
And sometimes more. We've actually had some connections to those. The former Callaway County high school coach, Brandon Morris, actually went to work for that Louisville City Football Club. They're a fantastic USL, which is second division team in America. What's more, Nashville's looking to get a USL team.
Anyway, to wrap up the Missouri Valley Conference discussion, although we've been
we have to nibble around the edges at this point because we know that Murray State fits basketball-wise.
Yes. With the Board of Regents meeting tomorrow, with intercollegiate athletics on the agenda, I think we may know something in the next week about whether Murray State is going to the Missouri Valley Conference or not, and we'll all be on pins and needles until then. Absolutely. For one, I hope it happens. I do too. I think it's a net positive for everything. It's a good positive for the community and for Murray State as a whole. I think it's a very good thing. Continuing with Racer basketball, the Racers lost one of their top assistant coaches, James Kane, as he is on his way to Dayton to work with Anthony Grant, the new head coach at Dayton. James was a great guy, still is a great guy. Now he's not. No, that's not what we're trying to say. Yeah, he's a great guy, and he was a terrific recruiter at Murray State. One of the best recruiters that Murray State's ever had, and even more than that, just a genuinely good guy. I mean, he wanted nothing but the best for the university. For the guys he recruited, he was a mentor and a friend. Anybody who's followed the happenings of his leaving Murray State, you've seen the outpouring of support from former players, from future players. They really respect him. They like what he's done, and I wish him nothing but the best. You can't blame him. Anthony Grant was the first college basketball job he got at VCU. That was the coach who did it, and there was a shot that he was going to end up at Alabama. Then Anthony Grant didn't have a job at Alabama anymore. When Grant got the job at Dayton, you knew if I'm Anthony Grant, one of my first calls is to James Kane. Absolutely. I mean, that's just how that works. Absolutely. Some of the guys who can recruit. I mean, some of the guys he's recruited: Terrell Miller, John Morant. And Jalen Dupree and T.J. Sapp, guys like that you look at who have really been key cogs to the success recently of Murray State basketball, and he's had a really big part to play in that. They signed Anthony Smith the other day, a JUCO from Barton County Community College, I believe, out of the Jayhawk Conference. JUCO. Averaged 12.3 points, 8.5 rebounds, nothing spectacular there. I've watched a video of him. He seems to be a slasher to me. And now who knows, because watching highlights, you can't really tell that much. But he does not seem to be a high riser. He doesn't look like an athletic specimen, but you know what? I'm okay with that. It's all about the results. I mean, it's the same concept people have when they say, "Well, he's only 6'4", and not this guy in particular, but he's only 6'4" without shoes on." When do you play basketball without shoes on? You know what I mean? Why is that important? You look at this guy. He's an undersized post. Comes out of the Greater Washington D.C. area. His high school was like about a half a mile from where Wayne Langston went to high school. Now, Wayne Langston is another guy that you look at, bit different build, but Wayne Langston was not a high flyer. True. But a very skilled post player. I'm curious to see what this guy brings. I've looked at his highlight film, and you're right. It's not one of those that you go, "Oh my gosh, this guy can jump out of the gym." But what we need is a guy who can defend and rebound. He kind of reminds me of a taller G. McGee. I think that's probably right. And if he can bring defensive intensity and rebounding, we're going to be okay. Those are the two areas that we were
desperately lacking last year was in consistency on the defensive end and consistency rebounding. I think the coaching staff is going to do their best to absolutely focus on those two areas. I would not be surprised if there was not another JUCO post that came up, and maybe a D1 transfer with the last two slots that are open. But I don't know. I mean, that's where I would go, but it's kind of that last spot is always best available.
Anything else on Racer Athletics?
Shocked and saddened at the death of Tony Cross.
Right.
Really a good guy and someone who's going to be missed a lot. Former assistant basketball coach. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, to the Racer family, and to the student athletes that he's kind of been influential in their life. But really just a great guy and a big loss for the community and a big loss for the program. Kudos
to Velvet Milkman for her Lady Racer golf team winning the OVC championship yesterday.
By 10 strokes.
And they shattered the previous record score by 22 shots.
It's funny, Mo Folk, she's the one who's the medalist for Murray State, won the championship, back-to-back medalist honors for her. She shot a 66 in the second round. I shot a 66 once, and it was the worst three holes of my life. I couldn't, it was bad. But, you tip your cap to Velvet. Murray State now has 10 women's golf championships. The next team with the most in the conference, 4, Jacksonville State. That's impressive. The rest of the league combined has 14.
Velvet's a legend in her own time.
She is.
And a great lady.
That's exactly what I was going to say. She's a fantastic person and a hell of a golf coach. I'm telling you, the fact that Murray State has kept her all this time is a testament to the university. It's a testament to her finding the place where she wants to be. She's been extremely successful, and I'm looking forward to see what they do in the NCAA tournament. Don't overlook the Lady Racer golf team. You never know what you're going to find out on that one.
And this is probably going to be out of place, but that's too bad. I'm going to mention it anyway. As long as we're talking about great ladies and great coaches at Murray State, I want to give a shout-out to Connie Kiesling, who's one of my all-time favorite coaches at Murray State. She did a great job with women's tennis there. And even after she left and retired, when the OVC championships are going on, Connie shows up and supports the Lady Racers.
Absolutely, and I think that's the biggest positive that you can look at from an athletic standpoint and building community is that you're getting these influential, these really great people, and you're putting them in student athletes' lives, and they're going to stay there. We talk about so many times Benny Purcell, Benny Purcell was All-American basketball player. Well, then Benny Purcell was the most successful Ohio Valley Conference tennis coach in Murray State history. And then on top of that, he was an all-around great guy who supported anything and everything Murray State. And there are so many other people who do that. You just want to tip your cap to those folks who really build that Murray State brand and love it and really care about the student athletes and the students that come through here. You cannot tell them thank you enough. So on behalf of us, thank you. If you guys are listening, thank you. If you see those people walk by, give them a high five. Tell them good job. Tell them thanks.
That brings to a close this edition of the Improbability Engine.